Hi everybody, Jessica Henry here. We are on our third session for painting the still life, and today I have something different I wanted to do with you all. Instead of setting up a formal arrangement, I thought it might be interesting to talk to you a little bit about just starting from the beginning with your box and setting up your lighting, and I just wanted to show you how you might arrange things, and then I'm going to take it all down, and then I'm just going to show you how to paint a couple of little smaller items just to give you some grasp on just a few just simple things, and also how to get some special effects. I'm going to show you how to do steam coming out of the coffee and things like that. I want to talk to you about painting metal today too. We're going to do copper. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. That is my introduction for today's lesson. All right, let's get going. Okay, so what you can see here now is my total arrangement. I have, as you can see, I have my felt fabric just tacked to the wall. And then on my stand here, I have books underneath this board here to help to kind of just adjust my elevation for the different still lifes that I like to do. Now, I have this piece of cardboard up, and it's just a box that I folded in half. And I have it set here so that I don't get too much of the ambient light from the window here. And then I have my easel right next to it. I'm right-handed, so this is here, and my still life is on that side so that I don't have to look over my hand this way. I've certainly done many still lifes where I did have to look over, and it's fine, but I do prefer it this way. All right, so then you want to adjust and control your lighting, and so what I have here is my light, and I'm going to shine it right at you, okay? So this is adjustable. I can go way up high and angle it down, or bring it much lower. And I like to do that way because it gives you different lighting effects on your objects. And there's also these nifty little flaps, which you can order these lights. If you don't want to do this, you can get one of those metal lights that we've talked about at the beginning. But you can also take tin foil and wrap it around the lip of that those metal lights, and then adjust the tin foil to be your flaps, just like this. And I've done that for years. In fact, I only just got these. So anyway, so you put your light close. Now what I want to show you too is how by your proximity of your light to your objects, you're going to get different lighting effects. So you can see right now here, I just put this here and I shone the light on it, and you can see these strong shadows on this copper pot, and you can see it cast behind there. Now I'm going to move the light farther away, and you'll see that those shadows get less intense. Okay. So you see what happened then when I moved that further away. Okay, I'm going to move it back so you can get that visual. Now you can see it's very strong, and of course my white egg is totally washed out because it's just video and that's how it does it. Okay, so so I like the dramatic lighting. You can adjust these flaps, and you can see how by moving that up, or if you have the tin foil, just crinkle it so that it hides some of it. You can open this up and see how that directs the light up there. I like it not quite like that. I'll turn these guys in. I'll just really funnel that light in so that it has a very direct, pronounced feel on my object. Okay, so now setting up your object. What you want to do, your still life, is just go through your house and just start collecting things. Anything that really appeals to you, and sometimes it's just one thing. Sometimes, like for example, I love this copper pot. I've painted it many, many times, and it's kind of got this unique tarnish over time. And I love these little turquoise squiggly things that are there, and this brass handle. So I'm going to paint this today, but what you do is you find something that you think is really unique and that you really want to paint. I am really hesitant to polish any of my silver because it gets this unique, look at all the colors in there. There's, I don't know if you can see that, magentas and greens and whatever. This is pretty and shiny when I polish it all up, and maybe someday I will, but but anyway, so just start gathering a bunch of stuff. Anything that you think might look nice or have an interesting feel. I do paint a lot of these shells. I think that the way that the light just kind of shines through them is always interesting, and they seem to tell a story. Every shell tells a story. So I just keep these things around. I've got a whole collection of antique books and wine bottles. You'll start to see things at antique stores and yard sales that you think would make really neat objects. I love this little, not really a tang horse, but I've painted him a few times. Pretty cool. And then, so those are, you've probably, if you're familiar with my YouTube channel, you'll see I've got many, many still life videos on there. So if you ever just want to learn how to paint like a live lobster, actually it was just freshly killed, but I've got, you know, paintings, videos on that, so you could watch how to paint a lobster, how to paint a glass of water, or, you know, anything like that. There's just a lot of random things on there. So on this video, I'm not gonna go into exactly what I've already done, because you can watch those at your own time. I'm gonna go into a little bit more finer detail into still life painting. So gather a bunch of stuff. You want to kind of create a flow to your still life. I'm always thinking about it being like poetry and like reading. I like to start typically just like how we read a book, from the left to the right, let it crescendo and cascade back. And I think that that makes a really harmonious feel to the arrangement. All right, so you want to then, if that's where it is, then this becomes your center of interest, and you want to create a feeling of impact and power there, because that's where we want the viewer to look. So it doesn't mean that you don't have anything else interesting in the painting. I mean, obviously you're going to have to make the whole thing an interesting work of art, but you know, you want to try to play with things, and you can stack up things, elevate it a little bit, get a crusty old red brick to put in there. That's always fun and beautiful. I'm not going to paint this pine cone, but you've seen in my pen and ink videos my little inkwell. This is pretty. I've put this in paintings before. So anyway, gather things, set them up, play with them. I go to the kitchen a lot. You know, loaf of bread, garlic, a glass of wine, some grapes like we did last week. Makes a beautiful, very simple painting. Grab a chunk of cheese, Parmesan, just whatever. It's sometimes the way that the light shines through the cheese is really beautiful. Okay, so place them in an attractive way. I don't think that that's attractive, but you know, actually, if you did a painting that was all about metal, you could put together a whole selection of different kinds. I've got this old brass, this tarnished old silver, this tarnished old copper, and that would be interesting too. So make it like that. Lead in, crescendo, decrescendo off. Allow the light to move. So this is all going to be shadows, so you're not going to be putting a lot of information and things down in this area. So keep it focused right in here and make this interesting, and then let the rest support that. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to start out by just putting a tone over this canvas. And I have my regular palette here with all my regular colors: titanium white, cad yellow pale, cad red medium. I don't know if I'll use that today. Maybe a little bit in the copper. Yellow ochre, burnt sienna. I'm not going to use the cobalt violet. That's just on there from before. Ultramarine blue, phthalo green, and alizarin crimson. So I'm going to set this down here, and if I do anything interesting, I will show you. In the meantime, I'm just going to throw on a quick tone over the canvas, just because I think it's a nice place to start with getting a medium base going. So Gamsol in there. That is burnt sienna and yellow ochre. And I'm really just going to divide this canvas into 3 parts. It's not going to be like a regular painting. I'm just going to show you just some very basic how to do some different things. So when I set those objects over there, I just place them, not in any order. Just going to do them separately. So if I know I'm going to paint something like copper, then I may just go ahead and tone the canvas in sort of a copper color. That way, again, if any of it peeks through, then it's okay, because it kind of makes sense. Okay. And that was just a really big size 12 flat. Alright, so I'm just going to use this paper towel I had in my hand. Just going to wipe some of that off. Paper towel. And I always just do a little bit of this, even if it's just a simple little demo. I just like to rough the surface up. It makes it look interesting, and I like to paint on something pretty. So it almost looks like suede or old leather or something like that. I think it looks cool. All right, so that's good. And then again, of course, it takes some of the shine, the white glare. Many people find a white canvas somewhat intimidating to begin a painting with. So if that's the case and you feel that way, then you'll want to definitely tone your canvas. Okay, so I'm just going to take just whatever. This is a size 4. It doesn't matter. I'm going to grab some ultramarine blue and burnt sienna to make my inky mixture. This is how I pretty much always start my paintings. Little bit of Gamsol, the smallest little touch, just to thin it down a little bit. I do have my linseed oil cups on the side of the palette over here. And just so you guys know, Rapha members, I am going to be selling these palettes through the holidays. I just have a limited number that I can do, so I'd like to make that offer to you guys first. Pretty soon I will be making those available. Okay, so what I'm going to do here with this copper, I'm just going to kind of put it on here. It isn't my idea to paint this entire copper pot today, but just to show you how I would paint copper. So in order to do that, I have to have sort of the bones down here in place. So bringing this down, there's this nice round belly on this picture. And I'm looking at the negative space as air sort of surrounds this pot. This was a great find. I had found this shopping in Cannon Beach, Oregon. This beautiful little copper pot. It's handmade by a local artist, and I think those are the best kinds of things to find. So I'm looking at the negative space here with this handle. It's like impossible not to concentrate on drawing. But anyway, there we go. So the spout comes up. We've got a crisp, sharp edge swooping down and up. And then this swoops down like that. Okay, so you can wipe your brush off, just sort of clean up any loose areas that shouldn't be there. Okay, and then the little foot thing down here as it comes out. And then this is going to echo the same curve right here. That's too big, so I'm going to shorten it by giving it a little bit of base down here. Okay, that's fine. Now I'm putting this one down. I'm going to grab just a bristle brush. I don't know if this will be a good one. Let's do this one. Okay. I'm going to just scoop right into ultramarine blue and burnt sienna. I'm looking at my shadows, the darkest places on that picture. And for me, I'm looking at adding a little bit more burnt sienna and yellow ochre into that pile. But I really just want something nice and dark. And I'm squinting down at that pot, and I'm looking for all the places where I see this very dark. And over here, this whole back passage over here, it's very dark. Under here. If you look at it with both eyes open, you can see all sorts of variations, and you don't want to do that. So squint down at it, and you're less likely to see all those little changes. You can always go back in and add them later, but for now, simplify, simplify, simplify. So here, instead of pressing very hard on my brush to get that nice dark color, I just pressed a little bit lighter right in there. All right, and then inside the picture is a very dark value. Okay, like that. All right, now I'm going to go through and just get the middle tone. So for the middle tone, I'm going to just aggressively grab some of that burnt sienna and a little bit of yellow ochre and paint those together. You don't have to mix the whole big piles, just a little as you see fit. Let's add a little bit of blue because I'm seeing that that blue and yellow, that's not enough, sort of make a greenish coppery tone. Okay, adding some linseed oil because that's really thick. Okay, I think that that pretty much looks like that middle tone over there. Squinting way down at it, I'm looking to see just where I see this middle tone copper color. I'm laying down simple passages like that. And you can see I'm not blending where the shadow meets the middle tone. It's just kind of, they're existing next to each other. And the brush itself, as the two halves, or the two values here touch, kind of do a subtle blending. Okay, so that has defined that shape. Let's get a little bit of that up in here. Now there's two more values on this pot. So what I'm going to do next is add the next lightest color in here. Let's take some of that cad red if you have it. Otherwise you could use maybe a little bit of alizarin crimson. Let's see what that does with some yellow ochre. A little bit of oil. I think we need more yellow. What about some of that cad yellow? Okay, that's more on target. This is our middle tone, or halfway to light color. Maybe a little bit of white just to make it opaque-y. Okay. Clean passages. Squinting down at it just to see where there are areas of just this color. And I'm going to paint it over the whole thing and then just lay the highlight on top of this. Always letting my brush strokes define the form of this object. Okay. Oh, here, while I have it, that's about right in there. I've got some of this middle tone still here. Oops. Okay. Now I'm going to take, and it's almost a pinky peach color, so white, cad red, and some yellow. And I don't mind this being very thick too. Laying this down in shoots right here. That should be more yellow. It's okay if the colors don't mix perfectly on there either. And this is hammered copper, so I'm gonna just kind of dab some of that in place in there, and it gives the illusion of it being hammered copper. It's kind of a ding over here. I'm just going to take a little bit more white into the shine in the middle. Right there. Okay. And then just a little bit to touch the edges up here. All right, looking like a copper pot. And then a little bit on the foot down here. Okay. And that's a very simple way to paint metal. All right, now I'm going to show you how to paint that little coffee cup. So I'm back to my smaller brush and an inky soupy mixture. I'm just going to put this coffee cup right about here. And I'm not doing it to scale because I just want to show you how I would go about painting this. And we're going to pretend like there's coffee in there, and I'll show you how to get a little bit of steam coming out of that cup. So I'm looking at the shape. This curvature here has to be matched by this one at the bottom. All right, and then the sides have this nice little way they come in and then down. Same with over here. As you can see, I'm just drawing it in place on the canvas. And there's a shadow that goes back this way. And then there's this cute little handle over here. I'm just going to paint the circle of it where your finger goes. And then I'm going to paint the background, leaving out where the handle is. Instead of drawing the shape of the handle, I'm drawing it by not drawing it, if that makes sense. All right, and then put a little bit of a dark background up here. Let's get some more of this. A little bit down here too. And the reason for this is so that you'll see in a moment as I want to pop out certain aspects and features of this cup, that will be necessary, that's sort of in place there. So far, nothing interesting going on my palette, just grabbing the colors that I need for this. All right, so now I'm gonna go back to my bristle brush and keeping this in very simple arrangement, grabbing some white, ultramarine blue, burnt sienna, just to make a nice even gray. I'm gonna start on there with my darkest gray. I think that's got to be even darker. So you can see how by more white, obviously would just lighten it. By adding more of the ultramarine blue and sienna, we just get a nicer, richer dark gray. More blue turns it grayer. Excuse me. All right, so let's see where we're at. Yep, that's my darkest gray. Now the light is shining this way, of course, so inside the cup we have kind of the reverse effect of the lighting. So I'm just going to go straight down, and then there's sort of a lip at the bottom for the cup. And then now on the inside there's a little bit more ochre, but we have the inside of the shadow of the cup over here, because that inside of the cup is getting the light hitting it. All right. Now, middle tone light, a little more white into this mixture. Well, let's do a little bit more white than that. And I see this value pretty much over the rest of this cup down here, with the exception of a little bit on the edge over there. So I'll add a little bit darker passage on the edge. And then at the top part of the cup where the lip turns out at us, there's sort of this decorative blue on the cup. So I think that that does add a nice balance to this value here too. It just kind of makes sense. So we're going to let that be there. Right, and then I'm going to soften this just by pressing lightly all the way down on this transition here. Okay, like that. Taking a little bit of light on this edge of the cup over here to make it look like it's got the bounced light hitting it over here. That atmosphere back there. Okay. Just trying to fix my drawing. I'm sitting not really level with my still life here, so there we go. That's a little better. All right, now back to inside the cup. A little more white and yellow ochre. I want that a little warmer inside there. And then right where the light is most intense, we're going to use a little bit more just yellow ochre and white. Just like that, a nice kind of creamy yellow. Okay, so now that should make a little bit more sense to how the light is shining and looking inside the cup. And with that light, I'm just going to hit up some of these passages in here where there's little bits of light in here, and then we're going to come back through there with some shine on that. All right, and while I have it, the handle itself has a dark on the inside of the little ring thing here. And then we'll go with a little bit lighter on the outside. I need some more linseed oil in that. So I'm just laying down little pieces of paint to make this look like the handle. Okay. All right, now I'm going to go into a smaller brush. This is a size 2. And I'm going to just pull out some more of these highlights inside and around in this area. So that is just like clean, pure white. And you'll see how by popping these in, it'll really take on that glossy ceramic appearance. So we're going to put a nice clean right there. And on this rim, and a little shine down here. It's not that noticeable. Let's hit that up a little harder. There. And then on the handle, there's some more highlights. Okay, so we're just letting that turn and go around. Same thing up here. There. Now, we're pretending like there's coffee in this cup. So you can actually take and, I think I'm going to actually paint coffee in there, but I want to show you how to do steam. Okay, so grabbing some burnt sienna, little bit of ultramarine blue, depending on how you like your coffee. So this is what I'm doing. I am coming over here, and it's going to be dark. Turning my brush a little bit. I just tipped it over there. Now, when light shines through a drink, it's lighter over here where the light's hitting it. So I'm going with sort of a yellow ochre in that passage. Now I'm going to add a little highlight to that. Okay, now here's the cool part. Clean your brush off. Nice and dry. And you're going to come up here and just put your brush right there. And see, there's white on the cup. If you were painting a different color cup, you'd have to grab a little bit of white. But you're going to go with a little bit of steam, just a little. You can even twirl it just a little bit to make it look like real steam. Okay, so I just grabbed the smallest bit of one of these blue grays. Okay, and that's how you can make it look like a nice piping hot cup of coffee. So I'm going to clean up a little bit around this handle just to make it look nicer, more refined, with a smaller brush. Just like that. All right, now for the last thing I want to show you, I am going to just continue on with my smaller brush here, my size 2, a little bit of ultramarine blue and sienna. I'm going to draw in place. I've got that egg. I cracked it on a plate. Now if I had more time, this might be a really fun still life to do with the shells and everything, but I thought that it would be interesting just to show you how I would do an egg cracked in a dish. So obviously this is not a good composition, but I'm squeezing this in where I can on this canvas. So let's go straight across this way. That's kind of slightly angled. Up, and then this is this way. So I've got this in a little dish that's, I believe it's for sushi, but that's okay because it's serving a purpose now. All right, and then I've just got a little bit of shadow there. So the egg fits in this area. I've got the yolk right here. And then this comes around, the albumin. And then the rest of it is kind of just sitting around in here. I'm not going to paint the eggshells in there. Okay, so I have kind of that middle tone that I just put down there, mapping in where that goes. And then just to block this in a little bit better, and just kind of forget about that back there. All right, so now I'm going to take some white right here into my pile. Where can you see it? Right there. And then I'm just going to squint down at this, and right now I'm just focused on getting the little dish kind of structurally in place. So there's this wedge shape of dish over here. And as it comes up over here, it's brighter. I think I want a little bit more cad yellow in that. Grabbing just some white there. And that'll make it look more lit. And then this one is just getting just right on that rim right there. Okay, so now what separates this albumen from this white is there's a little subtle edge of gray, hint of gray in it. So we're gonna pull that out a little bit more, just like get that a little bit more in place there. Okay, so I'm right into this yellow mixture. I am getting a little bit of that gray mixture, and this is the farthest, sort of the runniest part of that albumen, and I squint down at it and just lay it down. Not worried about all the different little subtle changes at this moment. So grabbing a little bit more of just the yellow and white right in here. And this will all really start to make sense once you get those little shines in place, and that's really cool. And then I'll do a little shadow along the edge. Okay, same thing over here, because it's kind of draining this whole area. A little more yellow. Let's do some yellow ochre in that too. Over here. All right, I think that is reading like albumen in there. All right, so let's get that middle row of it. Now there's a little bit lighter passage of kind of highlight on that where it sticks up. So we're going to get that in. I'm just doing it with a simple passage around the edge where I see it. And then a little darker in the middle. Squinting down at it. This yolk is casting a shadow on this egg, and so that's really cool. I love painting the shadow cast by a yolk. So we're grabbing some of this darker gray mixture in here and putting it right about where that yolk is going to be casting a shadow. And I do see some of it over here where it's casting a shadow there too. And some of it on this side. It's surprising how dark yolks or eggs are when you sit down to actually paint one. Okay, cleaning my brush off. Now the fun part. Let's get this cad yellow. Just do a lot. We're going to commit. Cad yellow, yellow ochre. We may add just a touch of the red to the shadow of it, but for now let's just squint down and paint that whole thing yellow. I had to add a little bit of yellow ochre because it kind of made it a little bit richer on top, which I like that. Okay, and of course the fresher the egg, the more that yolk sits up. I think this egg is about halfway through its freshness. So let's take a little bit more yellow ochre. I'm going to paint the shadow of this yolk. Yellow ochre, alizarin, and yellow ochre into this yellow mixture. And squinting down at that egg, I see it on the top, coming around and under a little bit over here, and grabbing a little bit more pure yellow just over here a little bit. Okay, now just gonna grab some little white, a little bit of white here to put some shines on this, like that, and down here. And there's some little bubbly things there. And that's about it. I am going to take some of this and just soften this. I think the shadow is kind of distracting. Not that that's not what this painting is not about this, but I do find that dark shadow distracting. Then I can kind of soften that edge a little bit. Got that same issue down here. All right. And that wraps this up. All right, well that wraps up this video number 3 in our still life section. And I hope that this has been interesting and you enjoyed this one. Okay, thanks guys, have a good day.